Welcome to the Addiction Show. My name's Miller, and I'm an addict. And we have a wonderful guest today, Stephen Alvarez from New Hope, and we'll get to introductions in just a minute. First, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So, if you have a problem with addiction, then go to MiamiRecoveryProject.org. They have referral services. They have peer support, support meetings, as well as overdose training and free Narcan distribution. If you want to make comments about the show, or if you want to be a guest in the show, or if you want to sponsor some shows, we need a couple of sponsors to help pay the bills. So you can go to miller@cnews.net. And I'm sure Ilian, did you put Ilian's our producer today. Thank you, Ilian. Namaste for your good works. As to our mission statement, so a man's walking along the beach and it's just full of starfish. And he's walking along and he sees a girl picking up the starfish, throwing them back in the water. He says, "Little girl," he says, "what are you doing?" She says, "Well, sir, the tide went out and all these starfish got caught in the sand. And if I don't throw them back in the water, the sun will just burn them up and they'll die. So I'm throwing them back in the water." And the man looked at the girl and said, "Little girl, there's thousands and thousands of starfish. What you're doing, it just won't make a difference." And she picks up another starfish. She throws it in the water. She said it made a difference for that one. So that's her mission statement, is to throw starfish back in the water. So now it's introduction time. I've known Stephen for a lot of mango seasons, and I'm glad you're finally in studio. Welcome. Stephen's going to tell us about New Hope, but first, just a little word about Stephen. I guess it's been about 4 years ago that right here in our office, we had somebody overdose. He was in the bathroom and unresponsive with a needle in his arm. And the boss went outside, could see him through the window, laying there unresponsive with a needle in his arm. So he called 911, the boss. He knocked down the door, broke the door down, and rescue came. They gave him Narcan. And then the boss turned to me and said, "Miller, you're an addict. You're in recovery. You work for me. Do something. You're in charge of doing something." And I just didn't even know where the heck to start. I'd handle it differently today. I'd call MiamiRecoveryProject.org and turn it over to my boy Tommy and let him worry about it. But then I couldn't do that. So rescue was here. They didn't really have good advice. They said, well, there used to be some resources, but now they're gone. The funding was gone. A bunch of 800 numbers, a bunch of numbers from the county. And all I did is go in a big circle and didn't get anywhere. And meanwhile, I'm sweating. And so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll call my boy Stephen down in New Hope and see if he can help. And I did. I called you. And he said, "Let me get back to you and describe what's going on." You called me back and you said, "Miller, I pulled some trump cards and you're going to owe me big time. And I can do this and I can make this happen and I can get this guy a bed." And I was like, and you go, whoa, not so fast. You go, "I have a question for you first." "What's your question?" "We know this guy needs help. We know it. He was in the bathroom, overdosed on the floor, non-responsive with a needle in his arm. We know he needs help, but does he want it? Does he want help?" And I can still feel right now just being like frozen. And I thought, what a good effing question. I hadn't even considered it. And the reality was he didn't want it. So a lot of people need recovery, but we know that they have to always want it. And we know that 100,000 people died last year just of overdose from fentanyl. And we know that another 80,000 people died in alcohol related. And the need gets greater and greater and greater. And you're helping to fight back and put those starfish back in the water. Stephen, tell us a little about New Hope.
So New Hope is a faith-based behavioral health care provider. Um, our mission is to assist individuals who are struggling with substance use or mental health disorders, reenter society, utilizing a faith and evidence-based approach to treatment. And so that says it all. Um, we were founded in 1993 by an awesome man by the name of Manny Alvarez, who had this vision. He wanted to help individuals that struggled with addiction. And I think that's almost 30 years ago. And it slowly evolved. It started as an outpatient program, and then we opened our residential center in 1996. And today we have a continuum of services from street outreach to outpatient to prevention. We have our residential treatment program, and then we have um, housing assistance.
So how many beds do you have in your facility down in Homestead?
In our main center, we have 56 beds.
And are they full, or like, come on down?
So not only are they full, there's a wait list. And so the way you access treatment depends on the funding source. And so in our residential program,
Well, how are you funded?
we're funded through county dollars. We to a CBO funding. We're through Ryan, which is serving individuals with certain health conditions. We're funded through Thriving Mind of South Florida, which is the managing entity that manages the state dollars. And so of the 56 beds, we carve out a certain amount of beds for each funding source. We're also funded by the VA to assist homeless veterans who are in need of substance abuse treatment in a residential level of care. And so depending on your circumstance, the referral is made to New Hope. But to not complicate things, what you would want to do to access services is contact us. We'll do a brief screening to see what the situation is, and then we'll say, okay, well, we can evaluate you and send the assessment to, let's say, a person is uninsured or underinsured. We would need a referral from Thriving Mind, and so we would send an evaluation to Thriving Mind. They get on the wait list, and then they can access not only New Hope's beds but other beds in the community. And so if you're a veteran and you're homeless and you reach out to us, then we'll contact the VA, and then we'll coordinate with the VA an appointment, or sometimes we'll have to set up transportation to get them to the VA office, and then they'll do their evaluation assessment, and then they send the referral to New Hope. And so New Hope's treatment beds are all funded through those sources, and then we have to receive these referrals from the funders, and that's how access is coordinated.
Sounds like you're always putting some kind of a puzzle together.
Yeah.
One by one by one.
Right.
How often is like, can't help this person? Does that happen?
No.
Good.
No. We're always having to evaluate what the situation is, and we'll link a person to the appropriate agency to get the services that they need, and so that they can also access New Hope's services. Outpatient is a little different. So we have our residential, which requires referrals. Outpatient, you could just call us, and we can provide outpatient services just by calling us. We also have HIV prevention services, where we go out in the community and do pre-test counseling, testing, post-test counseling. And if a person is, positive, then we link that person to the care that they need for HIV. And so
the idea of a 28-day stay in a treatment center is an idea.
So it all depends. Like the private insurances, that's about all that they will pay. So if you come in through private insurance, you have to get an authorization, then they give you 9 days, and then you have to reauthorize them for another 9 days, and you'll get about 28 days, and then they step you down to outpatient. But our funders will cover 60 days. And then with another request for an additional 30 days, it'll be granted for a specific funding source, such as Thriving Mind. The VA covers more time. So our episode of care would be anywhere from 30 days to 90 days of residential, and then we step them down to outpatient with other services attached to that person, such as housing. They go into our recovery residences once they complete treatment, or sometimes we can reunite them with their families. But most of the time, we're serving individuals that are homeless, uninsured, have hit rock bottom, they don't have really, any more support. And so most individuals that we serve are in need of long-term care. So they start off a residential, they end up in one of our recovery residences, or depending on their level of homelessness, if they're considered chronic homeless, been in the street for long periods of time, they qualify for funding through the Homeless Trust, which we also tap into those funds, rapid rehousing, rental assistance, that provides housing long-term depending on their circumstances, or they'll provide assistance for a year until they get their.
How about rehab training for skill levels to put them back in to some kind of meaningful paying job?
So while you're in treatment, there is an episode, if we can get into what an episode of care looks like.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah. And so a person will, let's say a person qualifies for whatever funding and they come into our program.
So this is going to be a day in the life of?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a person, came into our program.
So Miller shows up.
Miller shows up. He was referred by one of the referral sources. Miller, which would first, the referral source would send what they call the clinicals, and we would review to make sure that you're appropriate for treatment, that you have a substance use disorder, that you don't have any medical concerns.
Do I have to be clean when I go in?
No. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You have to be clean when you come in.
That's what I asked.
Yeah. But you can have a dirty urine.
You can have a what?
A dirty urine. In other words, there's
okay.
probably in a toxicology you will have drugs in your system. But yeah, no, you have to be clean.
I can't show up all effed up.
No.
Right. So now I show up clean,
Right.
but scared and spun around like a dreidel.
Right.
And what do you do with me that first day?
Basically, there's a brief orientation. We explain what the program
Is one-on-one stuff? You have counselors?
Yeah, well, it's our intake staff.
Okay.
So you first meet our intake staff, and there'll be a brief orientation, what to expect out of New Hope, and then all the paperwork and documentation that goes with it, and then you'll get assigned a therapist. Now you're in the program, you get assigned a therapist. The therapist then develops a treatment plan. There's a biopsychosocial assessment, and then there's a treatment plan.
Big words, Steve. I'm just like
there's an assessment.
I'm meat and potatoes. I'm just a simple guy.
So
a bio
psychosocial assessment. So basically, it's an
You
assessment.
get paid a lot of money with a title like that. But go ahead. So what do they do?
You meet with a therapist.
Right.
There's a session. There's an assessment, and that is with that information. There's a treatment plan.
So they make their own recommendation.
Yeah. Well, there's
And
a
so
treatment.
you
plan.
custom a program for each individual.
Yeah. There's a treatment plan developed that's individualized based on the person, right? So Miller, you have your own issues. You have your own family history. You have your whatever it is that you have
So
going on.
let me understand that there was the timeline. So there was an evaluation before I got there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all. They already have a little history on me.
Right.
I show up there. Now there's an intake assessment
Uh-huh.
with a biodegradable, whatever, something that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
That.
And they're going to then follow me through until I leave the program.
That's correct. So you're going to have a treatment plan developed. You're going to have a service plan developed that's a little separate than
What does that mean, service plan?
it's so going
What
back.
what expected that I do?
Right. So going back to your question of like job, like how are you going to help
Yeah.
me work? How are you going to help me when I'm
People
discharged?
need
So-
to feel
yeah.
meaningful in their life, right?
Right.
As
So,
part of recovery.
so as part of the process of an episode of care, you also have a service plan developed it's not dealing with your substance use and your mental health issues. Now it's dealing with your external needs. Now
So they evaluate skill levels.
You're evaluating what your housing needs, your legal problems, your medical needs, and so there's 5 areas that are evaluated.
So if before the abuse problem manifested, and I was, let's say, a functioning addict, and I was a carpenter, right? Are you going to put me back in some kind of a program so I can build stuff again? And no, okay, go ahead.
There's a case management plan developed and a clinical treatment plan developed. That case management plan basically evaluates where you're at, what are all your other needs, and then that case manager is responsible for linking you to the services outside of New Hope that you can benefit from.
So is it possible
therefore,
I go to
job-
work? Am I going to go to work while I'm at New Hope?
After 60 days.
After 60 days.
After 60 days.
I'm still there at New Hope.
Yeah.
I still have a bed.
Right.
Right.
And so after 60 days, you reach a level where you could start now integrating back into the community. We look at what your plan is. We may need to send you to a job placement program. There are other agencies to provide these services that we don't provide. So we link you to those services, those agencies that will provide job placement.
I think it's great you don't just drop the person on their ass.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't end in 30 days or 60 days,
No.
and then all of a sudden you're discharged and now what do I do? Like it's a process.
I think sometimes like normies, the normal people, the non-addicts, think that what we had here was like a cold, and now the cold's better. And the chronic nature
right
of addiction is something that requires its own special care.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, the disease of addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease,
Lifelong.
brain disease. And
Right.
so it doesn't end when your 30 days are up.
Right.
And then
That's the point.
and there are all kinds of other problems that need to be addressed.
So let's get back to the person shows up and they were biodegradable and they were evaluated.
Right.
I mean, right. So then there's lunch. I mean, at some point, move me through the day a little bit.
So what a day looks like is, these things are happening. We have time. These are some like the treatment plan has to be developed within a certain amount of days. We're all governed by DCF rules. And so there are
Department of Children and Families.
right. And so we're licensed
Right.
by the Department of Children and Families, and we're governed by certain timelines. Things need to be done by certain days.
So you have to submit that information.
No, it becomes part of your clinical chart.
Okay. But I'm still there the first day.
And so these are the things that have to happen. But in one day, what one day would look like is you come in, you meet a therapist, there's an intake, and you have your lunch. You're assigned a big brother. That big brother.
And who is the big brother? What's the criterion for that assignment?
somebody that's in the program.
That's been in 60 days?
That's been in there, 30 days.
And you like their progress.
Yeah, and then you assign a big brother, and then they kind of, move you along and tell you, explain what the things are, how the program works. That way you don't want to
The ins
leave
and
a new,
outs.
you don't want to leave a person on their own.
No.
They're just getting in. You're getting in. You don't know what's going on. You're gonna have a lot of questions. It's not like a staff person could be by your side the whole
So
time.
how about a rooming situation? Am I sleeping in a room in the same room as a big brother, or is that not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
How many
Not-
people in a room?
It's 4 people to a room.
4 people to a
Four
room.
people to a room.
So at what point do I meet my roommates? After lunch?
So no, you meet your roommates when you get in your room.
So
You don't
I
know.
remember in treatment, it's like, what was your drug of choice? What are you in for? What did you
Right,
do?
right.
There's a whole nother protocol that goes on that doesn't go on with the clinical stuff. There's one-on-one. Do you like it here? Is this a cool place? They're going to trust the judgment of their peers more than they are.
Right. That's going to happen throughout the day as you're talking to other individuals that are in the program. And
How long does it take a regular person? There isn't a regular person. How long does it take somebody to feel comfortable that they're there in New Hope and things are going to be okay? Oof, huh?
I'm going to have to say about 3 or 4 days. About 3 or 4 days. We have, and I have that number because it's been in my experience that the first day you're a little uncomfortable and some people just want to leave, and we tell them, give it a couple days. And about the second, third, or fourth day, all of a sudden they're like, have a change of heart. Oh yeah, I can do this. So it takes a couple of days for a person to kind of get comfortable with.
And you bring meetings in?
Yeah. So
12-step or?
So they went to their first day.
We're still at lunch.
Yeah,
We finished lunch.
they went to their first day. Let's just wait.
as an addict, I'm like, OCD,
All right.
ADD,
Your first day was a little complicated, but listen, you went to sleep. All right, now you went to sleep. You wake up, and now you wake
Do
up.
they
At,
do reveille? How do you wake me up?
there's a wake up at 6:30, 7
It's like,
o'clock.
Get up, Miller. Yes.
So we have a bell, and whenever there's an event on the schedule,
The bell
with
goes.
the bell, ding, 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 there's a bell. And so
So you get up.
yeah, so in the morning you wake up. The first thing is you have to make your bed. Some
That's a requirement.
Yeah, you have to straighten out your area. You have to make your bed. You go to breakfast.
Right. It's a common area for breakfast.
Yeah, common area, breakfast. Then
Right.
then after breakfast is med call. So then there's medication monitoring. People are just prescribed, meds for whatever health conditions. So there's a med call.
Right.
After med call, there's the 8 o'clock morning meeting.
What is that? What do you
It's,
need about
it's just a morning meeting, housekeeping things.
announcements?
Yeah. I see. So this would be a better Amaris question about exactly what goes on in the morning meeting. There is a group that happens at 8 o'clock mixing with the morning meeting. So the first group, let's just call it 8 o'clock, right? 8 o'clock, first group, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, you break off and you're, doing other things that at New Hope, everybody has a job function. You get a job function assigned to you
Within New Hope.
within the
facility?
New Hope. Some people help in the kitchen. Some people were helping.
So you don't
the
leave people with nothing to do.
Right. So
'Cause
there.
that'd be bad.
So the schedule is full, right?
From
9 to 10, you're taking care of whatever your job function is. 10 o'clock is another group from 10 to 11. Now all of a sudden you get a little break from 11 to 12. 12 o'clock is lunch. 1 o'clock is med call. 2 o'clock is another group. 2 to 3. 3 to 4 is orientation. Orientation is for the first 30 days. Individuals that are just coming in, they go to orientation to learn more about the structure and the program and all the rules and so on. And then there's free time after that orientation. And then there's there's a couple hours of free time where you could work on your assignments, your recovery assignments from your therapist. Then at 5 o'clock is dinner. 5 to 6. Then 6 o'clock is med call again. And then at 7 o'clock, there's always an NA meeting, an AA meeting, a Bible study, some meeting going on in the evening. And then basically it's last med call, you go to sleep, you wake up and you do it again.
I know. I know a few people that have gone through your program, and I'm not gonna one guy in particular when I saw him in there because I went in and brought a meeting in.
Uh-huh.
I was a speaker at one of the meetings at an NA meeting, and he came to me there was no soul left in his eyes
Mm-hmm.
at that point. He had just gotten there. He lost everything, and the wife was gonna divorce him. He was gonna lose his kids. His life was over. And by the end of the program, with your program, and it took a little while after that, today, the guy is just full of new hope,
Mhm.
full of spirit, and he got his family back, and he got all the miracles of recovery back. How rewarding do you feel or do you take the time to go, wow, this is a miracle. This is a daily miracle, especially being faith based. This is so cool.
So
Personally,
that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Like at New Hope, if you're doing it to make a living, if you're doing it to make money, you're in the wrong field.
Right.
What I always say to our staff, and we have different departments, to our outreach staff, to our specifically outreach. Outreach it's tough business. You're working with individuals that are unsheltered, homeless, in encampments. You're trying to engage them into treatment. You're trying to engage them into shelter. You're trying to engage them into the system. And if you don't have a personal mission, not the agency mission, but a personal mission to help individuals that are struggling with life, you're in the wrong business, because you're not going to do it for the paycheck.
so if somebody has questions or wants to get hold of you, who do they? Do you have a phone number and an email to go to? That's your cue.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
so I was going to
Elian.
give your phone number, right?
Yeah, not this week.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be on the screen. What?
No,
just-
so the phone number is, I think, probably on the screen somewhere. It's 786-243-1003. That's our main number. Or you can send us an email. You can email us at referrals@newhopecore.org. And then one of the administrators or the clinicians will respond to that email, get a contact information, and we'll give you a call. And then and we'll filter to the information that you're providing as the caller, and we'll get you to the right place.
Stephen, I want to thank you for being here today. I want you
Uh-huh.
to know that time is up. That you're
What?
You said 4 hours. No, it's time is up. You're one of my heroes. I'm glad you're here. We're throwing those starfish back one starfish at a time back into the water, trying to fight against this scourge of addiction. If somebody also has a problem with addiction, doesn't know where to go, then they should go to MiamiRecoveryProject.org, who gives referrals to Stephen, so
Right.
it all
Yeah.
connects. And again, if you have a question about the show or want to make a comment or want to sponsor, if you find value here, we need a couple of sponsors. Go to miller@cnews.net. And before we close the show, I want to do a shout out for my son, Josh Myers. He's in the Air Force in Germany, Sergeant Myers. And thank you for your service, son. And be safe.